Well, hello everybody, and I'm glad you're with us here for our Thursday live chat. Just to recap, we do this 3 times a week for now. What do you guys think about me continuing it 3 times a week? I was just going to say, what about June 1st, we go to 2 times a week? Do you still want 3 times a week, or are you okay with 2 times a week? So I would do sort of Monday and Thursday. Would that be okay? Let me know in the chat box. And don't forget, Car Cost Canada is the main sponsor of the show. If you want to get what the dealer paid for the car, any kind of incentives, rebates, all of the information, the most powerful information when you're shopping for a car, they can even help broker the deal for you. Go to carcostcanada.com, type in the promo code MotorMouth, become an expert member, and you can get more searches done for you. All right, people are starting to pile on. I just wanted to say we have a couple, not that many, pictures this time around. Mike on Cape Cod sent his picture of his M Roadster last time around, but he has more Roadsters. This guy loves his Roadster. Mike in Cape Cod has an MX-5 Miata and the Z3 or the Z3 down there in the US. And he autocrosses the MX-5 and says easily the MX-5 is the best of all of his Roadsters for autocross, which really says a lot against those BMWs. And back to my point I always make about the Miata or the MX-5 is if you've never driven one, you don't know what you're missing. Next up, we have Marcel. Marcel sent this picture, and just before we went on the air here, he's got a V60 T6 with the super and turbocharged engine, all-wheel drive. It says super fun car to drive. And then his hauler is the Ridgeline there on the right. I love having a pickup truck. I think owning a pickup truck is just so practical. Now, I have asked for video submissions, and Alex in Israel has sent a few in. We had Nick from Stratford, Ontario, Wee Haggis send one in. And now we have the winner for the farthest away. He's not watching live because he says it's the middle of the night. So this is Atol, who lives in Chicago. Well, I'll let him explain. So this is from India.
Hey Zach, hi. Trying to take the show further east from Israel to here in India now. Been stuck here for the past 2.5, 3 months. I was visiting my parents. Once the situation eases up, I'm from Chicago originally, so I'll be flying back there. Thank you for these live shows. I've been following them on a regular basis, not live because they start at 4:35, 5 a.m. in the morning for me, but I do follow it. So my question is around a big luxury car that I've always wanted to buy. I do like the Lexus LS a lot, the newer model 2018 onwards. How do you compare it against the Genesis G90, I believe, or any other options? I know you like the Volkswagen Audi cars too. So is A8 a good option too? I'm going to be looking at a certified car, which is 2 to 3 years old. And thank you for the show. It's really engaging and how you're keeping us all informed about the situation. Ciao.
Seems like a great guy, and I think that's cool. So we now have a winner, I think, for the farthest away, which is India. Now, I would love to get somebody from every continent. So now we've had Asia, South Asia. We have had Alex in Israel. I guess we would call that, well, the Mediterranean, really. And I would love an Australian to send a video chat in. And anybody else, send it to zack@motormouth.ca. That's where you send your pictures to. ZACK@motormouth.ca or ZACK@motormouth.ca. But don't send it to ZACH. I won't get it. All right, let's get into the chat box here. We have people coming on board. And don't forget to hit the like button. That'll help me out a lot. And see what's going on. It says they only have 26 people on. That seems low. I don't know what's going on today. All right. Andrew says, hey, Zach, pros, cons. Help me decide. Dollars from Car Cost Canada. A brand new 2019 GTI with a dual clutch for $35,890 on the road. I guess, are you saying tax in? Or a Golf R with a dual clutch with 7,000 kilometers on it for $39,230 on the road. Love the show and thank you. Well, you know, the 7,000 kilometers on the Golf R isn't that much if you can get them to, like, here's what I would do. If you could get them to do a certified pre-owned for the Golf R, so now it's a used car, right? So it would qualify to be a certified pre-owned. That might be a pretty good deal for just a few $1,000s more if they certify the car, which gives you a longer warranty. That's something to consider. But there's not a lot in it here. There's basically $4,000 difference between the two cars. Is the Golf R worth $4,000? Yes. Is 7,000 kilometers a lot for a new car? No. But these numbers still seem quite high to me. I still think for a year-old GTI for 36,000 seems kind of high still, and basically 40 grand for a Golf R with 7,000 K on it still seems high. Now, I'm not sure when you mean on the road, if you mean if that's tax included, then that's quite a bit less expensive. All right, so see if they'll do the Golf R certified pre-owned for that money. All right. What's going on now with our live? Yeah, so I'm not sure why we have so few people on just now. But if you are watching, hit the like button. I have been having issues with this live feed from Google. It seems to be quirky over the last little while, so hopefully everybody can hear me okay. All right. I noticed that I notice in the US that Japanese premium brands sell much more than in Canada. Why don't more Canadians buy those brands more, which have better reliability and for money than the German counterparts? I notice in the US that Japanese premium brands sell much more than in Canada. Why don't, oh, I see what you're saying. You know what I just realized? I didn't answer Atul's question about the Lexus LS. So let me do this one first, and then I'll get the question in. And don't forget, if you want to do a super chat to make sure your question's answered, you can hit the little $ in there as well. So the question is, why don't Canadians buy premium Japanese import cars as much as they do in the United States? And this is a relevant question because in the US, Lexus was the #1 luxury brand for years. And in Canada, not the case. In fact, we're down. The top brands in Canada were the Germans. And I think it comes to do with the fact that we have a bit more of a European influence here in Canada. I always explain to people who have never been here before, it's kind of like a halfway between the US and Europe when it comes to car taste. We typically like import cars from Europe more. Volkswagen does better here than it does per capita than the United States and so on. So there's something to that. I just think that Lexus really was able to capitalize on the downside of Lincoln and Cadillac. So when Lincoln and Cadillac really faltered in the 80s and the 90s, Lexus was the brand that picked up the traditional luxury car buyer, meaning that that sort of soft, refined, and smooth car kind of went to Lexus. Now back to Atul's question about the G90 and the LS from Lexus. So here's what I always say, and thank you for sending the video in from India. The bigger they are, the harder they fall. So full-size sedans depreciate the fastest, whether it's an S-Class Mercedes, A8 from Audi, so on and so on. And the same is true for Lexus and even for Genesis. So all of these cars will depreciate. I'm glad you're looking at 2018, getting one certified pre-owned. What I would suggest is that the Lexus LS is going to be a car that will just do everything well for many, many years and will actually give you a lot of comfort, refinement without much hassle at all when it comes to repairs. The G90 is a nice car. Love the 5-liter engine. Very good. Now I'm talking about the new one. The one that was out until just this past year, it was okay. It's not in the same camp as the LS. The good thing about it is that it's cheaper, right? But certified pre-owned Lexus LS would be a fabulous car. A8 You'll be surprised when you start looking about how quickly these cars depreciate. But just beware, when you buy a full-size luxury car, the depreciation is steep, and when you buy it, it doesn't stop. It keeps on going. So even though you're going to get a good deal on a 2 or 3-year-old full-size luxury car, depreciation on those is the worst of any in their luxury space. Rico Mambo, thank you for the super chat. Hey Zach, last time you advised to wait till the end of the year to get a used vehicle for better promos. Will not affect the value of my trade-in. Will it not affect the value of my trade-in? The last time you advised at the end of the year to get a used vehicle for better promos. I think what I was saying is it's better to get a new vehicle at the end of the year. Used vehicle prices are pretty steady. So what I'm basically saying is at the end of a calendar year, when a car is going to click over from being a 19 to a 20, the 19s now become a year old. So they have to discount them, which is back to the question we had about the GTI a moment ago. So this is a brand new car, but is now 1 calendar year old. So it has to be discounted. So you will get deals. Not really the case with used cars, because used cars have already absorbed some of the depreciation. We have another super chat here. Blue Ribbons. Will current event impact car manufacturers' production and sales? I see higher prices in the future. No, I don't see higher prices at all in the future. I see way more competitiveness in the marketplace. Most analysts are predicting that we will see sales decrease by about 25% in North America. And so what that means to me is that car manufacturers are going to have to market like mad to get the message out for you to choose this car over this car. There's less people shopping. And so deals are going to get sweet. Interest rates are going to be 0, and if not 0, 1%, 2%, very low interest rates. Cash on the hood, deferred payments, all of that stuff is coming into play. Oh, I'm just going down to the bottom here. B747. So I was on the chat a while ago and asked if you're an airline captain, and it says, "Hi Zach, thanks for the thoughts. And yes, I'm a captain. Unfortunately, these planes are disappearing. Queen of the sky, and aviation is not doing really well. And thank you for your help." So I was fortunate enough to fly to Europe probably 6 or 8 times a year for different car events. You know, I would go for Audi and Porsche and Mercedes and so on, and Volkswagen. I would fly to Europe, test drive a car, and then fly home. And we would go often just for 2 nights and back again. And my favorite flight was Lufthansa 747 from Vancouver to Frankfurt every single day. And if you've never flown on a 747, it is fantastic. It is just such a great airplane. It's the queen of the sky, and it's going to be very sad. I think Lufthansa is actually speeding up the retirement of their older aircraft. They're predicting that they're not going to be back to full capacity for maybe 3 years, and some of these older airplanes like the 747s that are not that efficient might be retired. And there's my Dreamliner that I got when I hit 1 million miles. I wonder how many miles our captain has. Tech Pro's asking in the super chat, what are your thoughts on the Ford Flex? I love the Ford Flex. I always liked the Ford Flex. I thought it was such a great product. It didn't look the part for most people, and they discontinued it. But you know, all of these vehicles that are coming into this space now, the Atlas, the Telluride, the Palisade, I've got the new Highlander this week. Andrea and I just did some shooting with it today. They're all going bigger and wanting more space. Well, the Flex already had that. Big box on wheels, tons of space on the inside. And if you could get one with the 3.5 liter EcoBoost engine, the same engine that's in the F-150, holy smokes, that thing is fast. So sort of dated looking, and the inside is a bit plastic fantastic, but I always enjoyed the Flex. James Dumas is saying, beer on me, Zach. Well, I'll say cheers to that, and thank you for the super chat. So it's Beck's o'clock, and that means it's a subscriber sip. So if you're watching this live, you probably do subscribe, which means you got the notification to come on live and watch. If you're watching this after the fact, you might not have subscribed. So make sure you hit the subscribe button. Hit the little bell too, and that will get you notified when we do this live again. Another super chat. They're coming in fast and furious. Do you think a Lexus is worth leasing when it holds its value so well? Waiting for the redesigned NX with hybrid, keeping it for 6 to 8 years, or do I lease then buy? If you're planning on keeping the car for 6 or 8 years, probably just buy it is my advice to you. The only reason I like leasing are for people who really can't commit to a car for that long. It does insure you against accelerated depreciation if you were to get into an accident. You're not, and if you're somebody that's going to buy the car and you're not financing it, that's the way to do it. But Lexus vehicles depreciate. They maybe don't depreciate to the same extent as other products, but yes, they do. And back to your Lexus NX. Now think about what's happened here in the last year or so. We've had a new RAV4 come out. We've had a new RAV4 hybrid come out. We've just in the last week seen the new Venza come out, which is built on the RAV4 platform, and that's a full hybrid. So what is the NX based on? The NX is based on the RAV4 and this Venza. And if this is what the Venza looks like a Lexus, I can't imagine what they're going to do with the NX. It's probably going to be something pretty remarkable. Maybe they'll make the grille even bigger. Maybe they'll make the lines and even sharper. I don't know, but it's going to be interesting to see. So if you're going to keep a car for 8 years, probably just buy it. All right. I'm going to get back to where I was here. Not a question, but I don't know about you. The last week was the first time I saw a slammed SUV. Spotted a last-gen RDX on the road, clearance of a TLX in Brampton. Oh, I guess someone had dropped one down. It wouldn't be my choice, but hey, good for you. People are saying stick to 3 times a week. Are you serious? You want this 3 times a week? I kind of wonder if I'm wearing out my welcome with you guys. So hopefully we'll keep doing them. Like I said, maybe we'll revisit the beginning of June, but if you guys like them 3 times a week, that's good. See, here's what's screwing me up. I'm seeing like I'm a little bit distracted. My control panel for YouTube is showing that I have nobody watching, but then I go on to my live chat and I see I've got lots of people. So something is not right. The YouTube platform for live streaming isn't very stable, which is a problem. And then I do the audio and I check the audio just before we go on and I'm in sync. But then I watch it back later and it's out of sync. And it wasn't me, it's YouTube. So I don't know what to do. JC says 5 days a week. I don't know if I could do 5 days a week. It's a struggle, I tell you, with Andrea making dinner, because after I finish this, I go and have dinner. And so 3 nights a week, I'm off the barbecue, which really screws things up. Hey, Zach, what do you think about the Lexus GS? I owned an 08 GS and absolutely loved it. I'm thinking about a 17 GS. What do you think it compares to? Do you think it compares to the ES? No, not at all. The ES is basically a stretched Camry. So the ES is based on the Camry platform. So they take it and they stretch it out and they make an Avalon. And then they take that and they turn it into a Lexus. So it's a front driver, but soon to be an all-wheel drive available because they're doing that for the Avalon. But no, it's a very different vehicle. The GS is a rear-wheel bias car, available with the hybrid, a really nice driving car, beautiful interior. I think that's one of the best interiors they do at Lexus. And yeah, a good car. I think a car. And from what I understand, there was some rumor, or maybe something confirm it, that GS is going away. So it could be one of those kind of cool cars to keep for a while. The only problem, same thing with all large luxury cars, is the resale value is definitely detrimental. Hey, Zach, ever drive up Highway 5A from Merritt to Kamloops? Rolling hills, lakes, smooth road, no cops, and mostly locals. Great driving road. From Merritt, from Merritt to Kamloops. I'm thinking of Highway 5, the one that goes from Princeton up to the Coquihalla connector is also Highway 5A, isn't it? But yeah, I think I've been on that road. Good idea, though. Summer road trip. No one's flying. That's going to be for sure. Hey, we got another super chat here. Tech Pro. Currently have a lease on a 2017 A6. It's up in January. It has accidents, so we'll be getting rid of it. Is it worth the extra for the new S6? For S6, well, if it's an S6, then you're definitely getting a more powerful car. So you have an A6 and you want to go to an S6. I think it's one of those things that you kind of need to try it to see, because, and this is worth the exercise, because the new A6 has a new power plant, right? So that is definitely an upgrade. And then the S6 is an upgrade as well. But when you're going from your old A6 to the new A6, that might be enough. You might think to yourself, oh, hey, this is plenty power, and I just get the S-Line appearance package and enjoy that without having to go all the way to the S6. Now, if you go RS6 Avant, that's pretty damn cool. So I would try it out first. I'm not sure it is worth the extra money, depending on what kind of driving you do. KC6801 did a super chat saying, cheers, Canadian in Houston, Texas. Is it getting hot and humid enough down there for you yet? I'm guessing Houston at this time of year is starting to get pretty hot. Cheers to you. You know what? We did, the pictures. I've been doing the pictures over the last little while. We had our live video, not live video, but the video from, we've had Alex in Israel. We had Atul in India. And it's pretty cool, the community of people. And I see a lot of the same names. Like I see Dwayne Rose is giving us a thumbs up, and lots of people who are regulars here to the live chat room, which is really cool. So I'm thinking maybe post-COVID, when I go back to Ontario, we might have a meetup for a beer somewhere. That'd be kind of cool if you guys would be down for that. Meet up somewhere in Southern Ontario. Hey, Zach, what do you think about the GS? Already done that already. What is your favorite fictional car? Mine is the Spinner from Blade Runner. My favorite fictional car is the James Bond DB5 with the machine guns. And that, I mean, it never existed. It was a movie car, but I like that. And they keep using it in the new movies too. Dwayne is saying, I already hit the like button, and so should you. This is Bruce saying, do we know about the new Venza? Toyota killing it with hybrids is mainstream vehicles. Toyota killing it with hybrids and mainstream vehicles. Yeah, somebody asked this. Actually, Nick asked this question about the Venza on the last live show. That's Huge Haggis, for those that know. Huge Haggis asked a similar question. Do you think the hybrid is a good idea? Here's the thing. So, I'm always telling you that car companies don't just make cars for us as car people. They make cars for governments and compliance. So Toyota, all car companies have to meet corporate average fuel economy targets, which are really quite stringent. Now, most car companies have a really hard time because you have to take the average of your vehicles. Some of them are pickup trucks, some of them are inefficient sports cars and things like that. And then you have electrified cars that give you more credits and so on. Because Toyota has so many hybrid cars or cars that they can hybridize, they can actually change the corporate average fuel economy of their company by adding more hybrids. And there's a whole philosophy, and I actually buy into this. And I've had many conversations with like the president of Toyota Canada, vice presidents at Toyota. I've had the chance to go to Japan with Toyota this past November for the Tokyo Motor Show, spending a lot of time drinking a few beers with the executives there. And the more you hear what their thought process is, the more it makes total sense. So for example, to make one battery electric vehicle, we'll pick a Tesla Model 3. You can produce, with the battery capacity of one Model 3, 5 hybrid vehicles, okay? So instead of having one vehicle that uses no fuel and doesn't pollute, you could have 5 vehicles reducing their emissions by, say, 25%. Now you multiply that by the thousands and tens of thousands of cars that Toyota has, and they are going to have a hybrid, a plug-in hybrid, or maybe even a battery electric or fuel cell vehicle through their entire range by 2025. So we're talking now in a few months, come September, 2021 cars, this is a 2021, will start to be introduced, right? So that's only 4 model years away. So you think about all of the vehicles that they have, and they haven't announced for hybrid. So we're talking Tacoma, Tundra, Sequoia. All of these big vehicles are going to have some form of hybridization included in them. They might just be mild hybrids like Ram does with Eco Boost. Not easy, what's it called? Not EcoBoost, Launch Torque. That's what they have. So it's going to be so interesting to watch. But if you can get tens of thousands of people using 25% less fuel, that has a much greater impact on the environment than just 1 or 2% of people using none. That's their theory. Rick says, excuse me, time for a subscriber sip. Hit the subscribe button. Rick Jensen says, you mentioned that you don't drive your diesel that much. Are you worried about it sitting too much? Do you take it on long drives regularly to avoid engine getting gunked up? I'm not too worried about it. Yeah, the car doesn't get driven on a lot of long trips, but I do sort of make an effort to take it out and really warm it up. I did that today. I went out to shoot a video that you'll see tomorrow on the channel at the Greater Vancouver Food Bank. And you're probably thinking, but Zach, why are you at the food bank? Well, Kia Cars Canada has basically donated their press vehicles to the food bank. So I'm going to do a quick video on that, and it'll be out tomorrow. So I took the car on the highway, and the main thing is to really let the car warm up. But yeah, so a few times a year, like this summer would have been the time where I do some longer road trips on the car, and that's what a diesel really likes. Single Malt is here. Hi, laddie. Hi, Zach. My reminder came in on time for the live show, but on your screen it says live in 4 hours. Single Malt, I have no idea why that is. I have tried to change that on my end. Like I said, the live platform for YouTube is not that good, actually. And he lives in Vancouver. Yeah, I don't know, dude. I'm trying my best. Gladio 2, I'm driving to Portland now and drove past a loaded VW Arteon. Wow, what a stunning car. Wish to put Golf R engine in it. Actually, it is the Golf R engine in it. It's just detuned. And it's actually a really nice car to drive. So it does have the Golf R engine in it, but it's just detuned, okay? So it is not a bad car at all. And a lot of people think, oh, it's no good because it's only got a turbo 4-cylinder. I have no problem with that car. Have you ever clay barred a car? If so, what were your results? So clay bar is exactly what you think. It's a bar of soap. It looks like a bar of soap, but it's clay. So what you do is you get detailing liquid and you spray it on your car, and then you rub the clay bar on the paint. And what it does is it lifts off any little particulate that's on the car, any imperfections. It helps pull it out of the paint, and it works like a hot damn. So what you do is you wash your car, you let it dry, and then you spray on the detail spray, and then you clay bar at the same time, and you rub your hand over it beforehand, and you feel little bumps on the paint. Then you clay bar, then after you rub your hand over it, and it's like smooth like a baby's backside. And then you can polish it or just wax it, but it doesn't take very long, and it really does work. Here's the #1 tip about clay barring. If you drop that clay bar on the ground, you throw it away and you get another one. Do not try to reuse it, because any imperfections that get in the clay bar can scratch the hell out of your paint, okay? So just be aware of that. So what I do is I break the clay bar, in half, and then pat it down, make it a little smaller, and then I use it that way. And if I was to drop that one, I have the other one. So think about that. What do you think about summer tires on a Civic LX? Is it overkill? I'm a big fan of having the right tire for the right season. Now, a pure summer tire on a Civic LX, there are some very good all seasons that are much more performance oriented. So if you have a second set of tires that are winter tires for driving in cold weather or cold weather tires, then yeah, why not? Now, also do some research because there are performance oriented all season tires that will last a little longer, and you might not notice it that much with the Civic LX. If it's a 3 Series BMW, that's maybe a different story. But if you can afford it and you don't mind switching the tires out twice a year, go for it. But there's some really good performance oriented all seasons that might sort of be a halfway measure for you. Hey Zach, why is it that Apple CarPlay and Android Auto suddenly became deal breakers for car shoppers? Well, because everybody wants their phone screen, everybody uses this all day long. We're all familiar with this. And I heard long before Apple and Android were available, why can't I have the functionality of my phone on the screen? Why do they have to have a separate interface made by Ford or Honda or Mazda or whomever? Why can't I just use my phone? I know my phone. So what they decided to do is have something that bridged your phone with the car. So it's just that people are used to having the interface of their phone. Now they can have it on the screen and they don't have to touch their phone. And because of hands-free laws, phoning, texting, emails, and all those sorts of things, and even search functions. Like for example, I have an Android. I hit the little button on the screen, and then I can voice command, and people use Siri as well to do that. So it's just that it's one of those things that once you've had it in a car and you use it every day, you're never going backwards. I always say, once you've had heated seats, you're never going to have a car without heated seats. Once you've had a car with a heated steering wheel, you're always going to have a car with a heated steering wheel. And I think for some people, now that they've had a chance to use these interfaces and they've come to rely on them, they don't want to give them up. And here's the other thing. Brands that offer this, like early adopters were the Korean brands, Hyundai and Kia, they offered them in the marketplace very early. Their quality scores shot way up because it takes a lot of pressure off the head unit and the programmers to get that right. They just go right to Apple and Android and they let them do it. So that's one thing about it. So I don't know why my live stream says I have only a few people watching, but I know there's more of you out there. Dave says, everybody should have a truck or a minivan. I would argue a minivan is more practical than a truck unless you go off-road. Well, that's true, because we talked about one of our viewers earlier has a Ridgeline, and I love having a pickup truck. I have an old Tacoma. I think it's a 2008. I always forget. 2008 or 2007 Tacoma. And before that, I used to call it the German pickup truck. I had a Volkswagen Vanagon. The big square box Volkswagen van. I had that for 13 years. And where I will agree with you that a van is pretty great, I think I prefer the pickup truck. The Vanagon was cool. I had a lot of street cred because I owned a Vanagon. People who like vans. But I think I like my Tacoma better. To clarify about the Jeep Grand Cherokee safety comment a few weeks ago, the Jeep did poorly in small overlap crash tests and poor headlights. So Gladio 2 is basically talking about why do you recommend the Jeep Grand Cherokee so much? Because it didn't score that well in the IIHS overlap test and also the poor headlamps. Yeah, I mean, it is a valid concern. I just like the product generally, and I will guarantee you with the new updated Grand Cherokee that's coming, it will be improved. Now, because I know this because with Ram pickup truck, they got slammed and they didn't get their quality score that they wanted and the crash test that they wanted with the Ram, and they went to great lengths to improve the crash worthiness of the latest Ram to the point where it gets top marks. So there is a new Grand Cherokee coming. So I will bet you, and I know this because I've spoken to the executives at FCA, all of the boxes that need to be ticked to get the best results, they basically target those. So I I hear what you're saying, but I don't base buying cars just on safety tests. I base it on a bunch of factors, and I still do like the Grand Cherokee. I think it's a great product. I'm gonna go to the bottom here, see what's going on, if I'm missing anything. Oh, Sean S. gave a super chat. Speedy. Yes, I have my Speedmaster Professional on today. This is a cool one. So for those that are maybe tuning in and don't watch regularly, I have a bit of a watch addiction. It's as bad as cars and is expensive. So this is the Moon Watch. For those that follow watches, the watch that went to the moon was the Omega Speedmaster Professional. They market the hell out of it. But this was the very first year that they landed on the moon, 1969. So it was 50 years ago, last year, that they landed on the moon. And this is a 1969 Speedmaster Professional. It has a special case back. So that's a cool watch. All right, let's get back to where I was here. Daniel says, I would like to buy a used Matrix all-wheel drive. Is it good in the snow? Subaru is not in my option. I was also looking the Lancer all-wheel drive 2016, but it's a CVT. The Matrix is a bit sort of crude in terms of its execution based on the fact that it's kind of old technology. And I'm not sure if the Matrix, I think the Matrix only ever had a 4-speed automatic. So that's what I mean. It's kind of yesteryear technology. The all-wheel drive system is not as advanced as others. Just think of a small Suzuki. There was a little Suzuki had all-wheel drive. I mean, the thing about the Matrix is it's a Corolla, right? And it will just, if you maintain it, will run indefinitely. But sort of yesteryear technology when it comes to the interior, the automatic transmission and all that kind of stuff. So that's all I can really add to that. I would like to keep the show 3 times per week, but you should do what's best for your family. Well, it's not that it's that onerous on my family. It's just sometimes Andrea says, I got to figure out what we're doing for dinner because we're not barbecuing. I'm the barbecue guy, so. Huge Haggis is here. Nate is here. The big 3 rely on SUVs and pickup trucks for sales, and then they were hit with the '08 financial crisis. Now they have banked on SUVs for big profits. Do you think they made a mistake not keeping a tow? I'm not sure what you mean by that. Oh, a tow in the water with small cars. They went with what their strength is. Brands that excel at small cars had the lion's share of sales. So think of the Korean and Japanese cars. Now the opposite is true with trucks. Think of full-size pickup trucks and who has the lion's share? It's the domestics. So their strength is with trucks, and smaller cars for the most part are the strength of the import brands. So, I mean, I think they maybe gave up a little bit early on some cars, but they just saw the shift in the marketplace. The thing is, there's not a problem producing a low volume car. The problem is the manufacturing. To keep a plant running and volume for a car that doesn't sell that well is not the best utilization of their production base. So say you're a car company and you have 25 plants around North America. I'll pick a number, I think it might be more or less. But they have all of these plants around North America, and they're seeing a surge in SUV sales, and they're seeing a surge in truck sales. There's only so much capacity that they have in the system without adding a new factory. So they take the capacity away from one line to fill it with another. Here's a perfect example. Volkswagen is taking out Golf production out of their Mexico plant and putting in a new SUV for when they come out. Same thing in Cambridge, Ontario, where Toyota makes the RAV4, they make the Lexus RX, and they used to make the Corolla, where they take Corolla production out of that plant and put in a much higher volume not maybe higher volume, but higher value product in there. And they're not done with what's going in there. And you would know that, Nate, because I think you work there. So yeah, it's not just about sales, it's about capacity they have to make all of their vehicles. And sometimes the capacity of their manufacturing base is better used for vehicles that make them more money. Listen, this is not a phenomenon that has caught just the North American brands off guard. All brands are feeling this. Sales of cars are absolutely plummeting around many parts of the world, and utility sales are skyrocketing. So I don't know what I can say other than if you look other than Ford at the health of General Motors, they made money. FCA has made a lot of money in the last couple of years. Ford, not so much. That's mostly because of restructuring. Thoughts on long-term reliability of Stelvio? Well, I think you can only look at the data we have from things like JD Power and Consumer Reports and show that Alpha as a brand is not as reliable as others. So I always say for a lot of these import cars, please try and keep it under warranty. And that would be my advice for Stelvio, because it's a great driving car. I like the look of it. I like the Alphas. I think they have a lot of character to them. But if it was me, and my suggestion to you is, just keep it under warranty. And then when it's out of warranty, move on to something else. We Haggis. We had huge Haggis. Now We Haggis is in. Hey, Zach, I want to know what a good first car would be for me. I would like a hatchback or a small sporty car, and I prefer a manual. Well, I would go for a Civic hatchback. I would go for the Corolla, the latest Corolla hatchback. I would go for a Volkswagen Golf. I think a Volkswagen Golf's a great first car, and I like the fact you're driving a manual. Or you should just tell your dad to not be so cheap and give you his Micra, and then he can get a new car. So that's what I would suggest, because a Micra is a great first car. Yeah, I would say those three, or a Mazda 3. Mazda 3 would be another one. What are your thoughts on a lease takeover? Also looking forward to the 2020 Acura Tsx. Saw the teaser today. It looks like it's going to be nice and much better than the current gen. Yeah, I'm getting emails from Acura about the TSX on the 28th. I think they're going to be showing it. And I'm going to send Honda Acura an email, hopefully getting that information in advance so I can get a video done. So when the reveal is, I can share it with you guys like I did with the Venza and the Sienna. I got all that information about 4 days in advance, so I was able to do the video and have it ready to go. So I'm hoping that's going to be the case with Acura. We're going to find out. But yeah, TSX is a car that, in my opinion, missed the boat. Not because it's not a terrible car. It's that the TL was so good and the TSX was such a good car, and this was trying to be everything to all people, and it, in my opinion, missed on some levels. What are your thoughts on the Hyundai Venue versus the Hyundai Accent hatchback? The Hyundai Venue versus the hatchback. Obviously, there's more headroom in the Venue, but I can't see any other advantage, to be honest. Well, Kevin, you absolutely nailed it. One is price. The Accent is cheap, and they're always on sale. And you're right. It's got the same engine, built on the same platform. It's got the same trailing solid axle in the back, and what you're getting is a lot of the same mechanics without the SUV styling. And the Accent is a great little car. The other one is the Kia Rio. I like them both, the sister vehicle. But you're right, you've done your homework, and you've figured it out that really what they've done is they've made an Accent into an SUV and charging a premium for it. You nailed it. Can you explain the CAT transmission on WRX, not STI? Is it a regular automatic, or must I use paddle shifters? Oh, I think you meant CVT. Can you explain the CVT transmission on WRX? Okay, so the CVT in the WRX is the same CVT that they used for the turbo version of Forester, which we don't get any longer. So it is a, I'm trying to remember the terminology they use for it, but it basically is a sort of a higher torque load CVT. It's a much more precise, and it's programmable. There's buttons on the steering wheel, and it still is a CVT, but it must I use paddle shifters? No, 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 no. You can just set it and forget it and use it like a regular automatic. However, if you use the paddle shifters, it mimics those preset shift points. And for a CVT in a performance application, it's pretty good. Now, it's never going to be the same as like a regular torque converter automatic, but for a CVT, I would say that Subaru CVTs are some of the best. And for drivability, for reliability, I'm in over my head on that. You have to look that up. I think the new Hyundai and Kia CVT they use in the Forte, for example, is another excellent CVT for drivability. But yeah, it's not the same as an automatic, but for a CVT, it's pretty damn good. Sorry, I'm just going through some of these. Cocking the Axle is here. Nice to see. I think that's one of my new fave handles. Cocking the Axle. Hey, Zach, it's good to have 3 a week, but give yourself a break and just do 2 a week. You know what? I'll keep doing them for 3. If you guys want me to keep doing them, I'll keep doing them 3 a week. Why is the manual transmission still popular in the European Union? And if Canada is like the EU, why don't more people drive stick here? Well, I think Canada does have a slightly higher take rate of manual transmissions per capita than you do in the United States, and that is thanks to the province, the Belle Province of Quebec, and that's because we have a lot of people in the province of Quebec that still drive manual transmissions. And we have a lot of people in the province of Quebec still drive cars. And we have a lot of people in the province of Quebec still drive small subcompact cars. And I think if you went to Quebec City or Montreal, the view of what people drive in Canada is very different than if you were here in Vancouver. They drive smaller, less expensive cars, often with manual transmission. Where here on the West Coast, it's premium cars and not the case. So I think it depends on where you are. We do have a little bit of that European flair, but mostly French. Huh? Oui, oui. Daniel Gross, Zach, in the post-pandemic economy, do you think reasonably priced cars, not SUVs, will become more popular? There could be an argument made for less expensive cars, perhaps Ford, GM, and FCA. The problem is these brands can't turn those cars back on again. Like they've canceled the Focus, they've canceled the Dart, they've canceled what's a small the Sonic, and so on from Chevrolet. Now the good news is for some of those brands like Ford and General Motors and so on, they can bring them in from other areas. Like they can bring in those Korean-made cars, like the old Daewoo cars that they used to bring in, like the Sonic and what have you. They can bring those back in as imports, but that begs the question about the cost. I think what's going to happen is you're going to see a real clear divide. SUVs for the domestics and import brands will get a lot of those people that are intenders for less expensive transportation when it comes to just basic cars. So think of brands like Hyundai and Kia doing well with cars like the Accent, like the Rio, like the Forte, like the Elantra, and so on. And then of course the Japanese brands as well. But I don't think there's an ability of the domestic brands to just turn that production back on. It's way too long to engineer the cars and way too long to get the production back up and running. Hey, Ricardo's here from Lima, Peru. Well, how cool is that? I've only been to Chile in South America, but one day, I'd love to go there. Blue Ribbons is chiming in, talking about aviation. We have a 747 pilot on here talking about the Queen of the Sky, and then me talking about retiring, the big aircraft. And the A380 is one that is going to go away. I was fortunate; I had a chance. I've only flown in the A380 once, and that was with Etihad, flying from London Heathrow to Abu Dhabi and back. Oh, I heard. I'm going to try and remember this joke without screwing it up too bad. It was on Facebook. Somebody posted it, this guy telling the joke. He says, okay, I got to remember the joke. It's about Abu Dhabi. People in Dubai do not like the Flintstones. People in Dubai do not like the Flintstones, but the people in Abu Dhabi do. That's a good joke. But the people in Abu Dhabi do. Ooh, hey, Fred. James says, if you're keeping, I think he's answering somebody else's question. What do you think of the Toyota Corolla XSE? The Corolla's a good car. I like the Corolla a lot. I think that the Corolla, they did a really good job with it. And it's kind of interesting, you know. I'm seeing a bit of a trend here. I think that there may be people are thinking about downsizing their vehicle choice. So it used to all be about SUVs until recently. Now I'm starting to see questions about smaller cars. And I think that smaller cars for most people are all you need. I always say to people, what do you need to get to work and back? And now that work is in the kitchen and the living room is, you know, your leisure space, I don't know. I don't know what to say. You've gone so American when it comes to hitting the subscribe button. Well, I don't know, Dr. CHH. When you live in this YouTube world, it all helps. That's all I can tell you. I mean, if you just let the Google algorithm be your guide, you'll never get anywhere. You actually have to be much more proactive. And it's the one thing I wish I hadn't done earlier. Like, I never asked anybody to subscribe until this year, till 2020. And that's like a stupid thing. I've been doing YouTube for basically 10 years. I wish I had asked at the beginning, please subscribe. I'd have more subscribers. Dumb me. Volvo's T8's non-Polestar engineer seems to be quite a bit cheaper than the Polestar trim. What's the main difference, and is it good enough on the Polestar trim actually worth the extra? Well, on the S60 that Andrea and I drove, you can go and watch the video, I don't think so. I mean, when you start looking at the cost, it seems like it's really quite expensive to have the Polestar engineered. You get a strut brace inside the engine compartment, adjustable front struts, you get the gold calipers, and you get some other modifications. You do get extra programming when it comes to optimizing the hybrid system, but the smart money really is on the T8. I'm with you on that. Hey, Zach, interesting to see the Honda HR-V as an Acura in China called the CDX. Have you heard anything about the Acura CDX coming to Europe or Canada? No. You know what's quite interesting? Acura is really quite tight-lipped about what's coming down the line. Some brands give you much more in terms of hints about what's going on, at least in Canada. It's probably because of the relationship I have with the PR department there, because they've had a lot of people leave and they have new people, which I don't know as well as the old people, so that may be my fault, but I don't know anything about that car. Weird listening to this live. I normally watch later, but I do it at 1.25 times the speed to save time. Zach's talking so slow than I'm used to. Well, sorry about that. All right. Ricardo says, warm regards, Zach. What's the most difficult part of your job when reviewing a vehicle? What's the most difficult part? Well, I would say that what I try to do, and hopefully you get this when you watch the videos, I try to give a little bit of perspective on the car and what it is and how it fits in, and some history maybe, depends on the car, like where it's come and who its competitors are. So you kind of have to come up with a little bit of a story that you're going to tell about the car. You know, for example, just off the top of my mind, I did a review of the Honda CR-V recently, and I kind of told the story of like what they used to have as an engine, the choices that they made for the new engine, choices they made for the transmission, and how that's affecting the way the vehicle drives in comparison to what they do at Toyota with their engine and their transmission. So I kind of try to weave a little bit of a narrative into it. And now we're taking that to another level by introducing Andrea into a lot of the videos. So I think the hardest part is, how am I going to tell this story? I mean, it's easy just to give the facts and figures and the horsepower and all that kind of stuff. Everybody does that. I would hope that you take away from it that I've been doing this for a while. I started test driving cars in 1992, so it'll be 30 years. I know I was only 4 when I started. So it'll be 30 years, almost 30 years I've been test driving cars. So I always tell people who are interested in doing what I'm doing, is you have to know what came before. You have to know the story previously. For example, here's another perfect example. The Sentra video is coming up on Saturday, and Andrea and I do a video on that one. And I talked about how Sentra used to be right in the mix. You know, back in the 80s and the 90s, the Sentra was in the same sentence as the Civic and the Corolla. But then Sentra fell way off. I almost did it. Sentra fell way off and was replaced by cars like the Elantra. And it just fell out of the conversation. So if you didn't know your history, you wouldn't know that Sentra used to be a big deal. And they're trying to make it a big deal again. And I think they did a very good job with it. I think that the new Sentra is fantastic. But that is the hardest part about the job. So I want to see if I missed any here. Oh, so I see Mike Shaw did a super chat and I didn't see it. And I think, Mike, you called me out on it before that I missed one of yours. So I'm going to do it for sure. Hello, Zach. Your thoughts on what's next in infotainment systems? Seems like the industry is moving buttons into infotainment systems like Porsche. I prefer buttons on the Macan. Thanks. And 3 times a week. My prediction is we're going to see a huge wave towards everything being in screens to it reverting back the other way eventually. People still like hard keys and switches. They do. And we saw BMW do this in the early 2000s when they brought out iDrive in the 7 Series. And then iDrive was introduced over the years to all of the other vehicles in their lineup. So it was all menu driven with a controller and a screen. And then they slowly put a lot of the hard keys back. Now to the point where you can use the iDrive or you can just hit the hard buttons. Here's the thing is, the best systems, in my opinion, are the ones that have both. For example, I'm driving the new Highlander this week. It has a button for audio. You hit that, but then you can go into the screen. You want to hit one for menu or what have you. So the Korean brands do a really good job of having a screen, which you can use Android and Apple for on the screen, but they have buttons underneath, like for phone, navigation, as a quick sort of jump to whatever you're using. Those sorts of systems seem to be the best in my opinion. And when it's totally menu driven in a screen, I don't think people like it as much. And I've had this conversation with many interior designers and electrical engineers from car companies, and they say, oh, well, but people like to use their smartphone. They're used to using a touchscreen. Yeah, but they're not driving a car. In a car, you just want to be able to push a button. And we've seen brands take away things like a volume knob and then have to put it back in. Think of Honda with the Civic and the CR-V. The next generation Golf, I thought I had a picture there. The next generation Golf, they're getting rid of the volume button and controller. My prediction, within a couple of years, they'll put it back. So I think everything is shifting. We're tacking one way, going too far with all of the screens, and I think we'll tack back a little bit. We're not going to go all the way back to just switches and buttons, but the best systems, in my view, they have a bit of both. Hey, Zach, Tesla wants to build a new factory in Texas. Is there any advantage manufacturing in Texas versus California? Taxes. Texas, much lower taxes. California taxes are very high. California land is very expensive. California cost of living is massive. Look at Toyota. Toyota moved to Plano, Texas, and they have their head office there now. And a lot of people move there because, or the company moved there because Texas also gives huge tax incentives. And I guarantee you that the government of Texas is opening up and saying, we'll get land for you, we'll help you get land, we're going to defer payments on taxes and all those kinds of things. Plus, people that move there, the cost to buy a house is a lot less expensive. So I think, and the regulatory environment in a state like Texas is much easier than a state like Texas. Those are all the reasons why. Pete Kennedy, looking to buy a 997 C4S or stay away from all-wheel drive. And yes, PPI. So Pete Kennedy, PPI means pre-purchase inspection. If you're buying especially a high-end car like a Porsche, absolutely get it inspected. Should you stay away from all-wheel drive? No. If I was buying a Carrera, I would buy a C4S as well. I had a C2S and I had a C4S. I just thought the C4S was a better car, especially in where I live in a Canadian climate. Okay, I am up against the clock. I have been on for an hour, and it still shows on my dashboard that nobody is here. But I know you're here. You're in my heart. How hokey is that? All right, it's the beer talking. Once again, we want to say hi to Mike on Cape Cod. He's got 3 Roadsters. He's got an M Roadster, he's got a Z3 or a Z3, and an MX-5 Miata that he does the autocross with. And here's Marcel. Marcel's got a V60 T6 on the left, nice looking ride, and his Ridgeline. And thanks to Atal, I hope I say the name right, from who sent in the video from India. If you want to get your video through, go to zach@motormouth.ca. That's my email. And don't forget to subscribe to Car Cost Canada. And that's it. That's all. We'll see you on, what's today? Thursday? We'll see you on Sunday. Take it easy. Talk to you then.